Ve'es Yehuda sholach lefanav El Yosef lahoros lefanav Goshna. The Torah tells us how Yaakov Avinu hears that Yosef is alive. His son, who he thought was dead, disappeared 22 years ago, he's alive. The brothers come back and they say, not only is he alive, he's the second in command, he's the Mishnah Lamelech, he's the Tzaf Nasmanech, he's the Mashmir, he's everything. And he's in Egypt, and we're all going, and Yaakov says, wow, I gotta go and see my son while I can. But he sends Yehuda in front of him to Yosef, Lahoros Lefonav Goshna, in order to prepare him when he gets to Goshen. And the simple explanation is Lahoros, to prepare. Yehuda's going to be in charge of logistics. He's the director of operations. There are a lot of things to take care of. Who knows? Does Egypt have air conditioning? Place, whatever. Make sure that there's good cholent and kugel for Shabbos Kiddush. The important things. Yehuda's going to be in charge. But the Medrash tells us, and it's a well-known Medrash, that Lahoros doesn't mean to prepare in the simple sense, but rather it's connected to Hora'ah, to teaching. That Yaakov sent Yehuda l'sakein beis ha-Talmud, to establish a school of study, Lahoros, to teach. And it's interesting, until this point we find various expressions that discuss the transmission of Torah. We hear of a yeshiva of Shem and Aver. We read about how Rivka went lidrosh es Hashem, to seek Hashem. But here we find Yehuda sent to create a place of hora'ah. What does that mean? And why is it different? And what is significant about it? In the early days of the Jewish people, in the days of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, in the early days, they were a very small group of people. And yes, there were some very dedicated scholars and students that, as the name yeshiva suggests, sat in a passive way. They studied amongst themselves. They studied the depths of Torah. And it was, in some sense, for the few, for those who were passionate, for those who were motivated. Rivka has a shaila, she seeks out Hashem. She's doresh, doreshes. But here you find something different. Lahoros means to go out and teach. Yaakov recognized that there is a transformation in the life of the Jewish people. The Jewish people are no longer so small. They already come down to Mitzrayim as Shivim Nafesh, as 70 souls. That's a lot bigger than they were before. And so therefore you need a system. Because they're coming to a foreign land. Egypt had values, mores that were different than Jewish values. And Yaakov was rightfully concerned that if we're going to bring all the Jewish people, and we don't know how long we're bringing them down because there's this terrible famine, we better have a good school system. We better have a system that can address everyone's needs. Every child, no matter his or her level. A child who's gifted, a child who's challenged, and a child who's somewhere in between. Lahoros, to teach. Yaakov understands how important that is because otherwise the continuity of the Jewish people is at great risk. But there is, I believe, an additional interpretation as well. And that is, we refer to a rabbi, to a paisik, as a moira, someone who teaches, someone who, if you will, rules, who decides, paskins. Yaakov Avinu understood that no longer were the Jewish people going to be content with having a system that if somebody has an individual shaila, they can go lidrosh es Hashem, to seek out Hashem, to ask their question, to seek out eitzah, v'soshia, to seek out counsel and guidance. There needed to be a system. There needed to be rules and regulations that everyone was aware of. There needed to be standards for kashrus. There needed to be standards in the areas of the practice of Shabbos, and so on and so forth. And so Yehuda has to go to be Mesakin the Beis HaTalmud, a place of hora'ah, a place of ruling. And it's so important in our time that we have standards, that it's not the Wild West, that everybody just does what he or she thinks. Today, people have a question in any area of life, it's true, but very much in Judaism, in Torah life, what do people do? They go online. Everybody's a Google Hadar. I go to Google and I go to pickaposik.com and I get the answer that I want. And of course, that's not the way it works. One of the interesting, if you will, results of the coronavirus has been to see a tremendous amount of literary output in the area of halacha. Many great halachic authorities have produced a lot of writing, many tshuvas, many responsa to deal with the questions of the day. And that's been a beautiful thing to see. It's been wonderful to know that we have systems in place to deal with great challenges that face individuals, communities, and the entire Jewish people. That no matter what challenges we face, what guides us is Torah. And it was Yehuda who was challenged to be the first one to create a system upon which we could rely. And thousands of years later, we are still, Baruch Hashem, turning to our systems to figure out how to address modern day challenges. And so, we should continue to study, yes, to go to yeshiva. We should continue to be Doresh es Hashem, to seek out Hashem. But we should also make sure that we have strong systems of hora'ah, strong systems for passing on our Masorah. It's what kept the Jewish people as a people in Egypt in all of their years of slavery, and they must have had many difficult shilas. It's what's kept the Jewish people in all the years where we've faced persecution and plague, and it's ultimately what will guide us at the time of the ultimate redemption. May it come b'meher v'yameinu. Amen.